Well, hello friends. You caught me looking at some lyrics and listening to some music. You know, this week is a special one to me. Last week we had something really quite sweet happen. You know that my son and his wife came into town from the last couple of videos. Well, the first weekend they were here, my son-in-law, he's a children's minister, and he was ordained. And it made me think back through time of all of the things that I've been through in my life, and what is the greatest compliment that anyone could ever pay you. You know, in the book of Acts, chapter 13, verse 22, Paul describes David as this: a man after God's heart, saying that he would do whatever God asked him to do. You know, in a world today where we define manliness and godliness in some pretty weird ways, I'll just be straight up with you. We say what defines a good man, and yet that's not how we quantify him. You know, we chastise and criticize everyone on their failures, and we never look at the good in anything anymore in this society. Someone fails, we cancel them. Someone disappoints you, you throw them away. It's almost as if everyone is a Keurig K-cup. You use it and throw it in the garbage. Whereas what we used to do, we had the metal in the percolator, right? And we'd make the coffee and we'd clean it out, and the next day we'd use it again, because we knew a good cup of coffee awaited from that percolator. And you know, if the filter of almost every percolator I ever used was bent, you ever notice that? It didn't matter. They were always bent all up. It's like, what did Grandma do to those things? Did she drop them in the floor? Did she, you know, what happened to them? Why were they bent? You know, the metal inside those percolators was real fragile. The little basket was real thin metal, and it would get bent up, but it could still make a good cup of coffee. It still had the reward. Well, that's how I am. I'm that bent up old percolator, but still make a pretty darn good cup of coffee. And my son-in-law, he's not quite as bent up as I am yet, but he will be. He'll get bent up, because the world's going to beat him up. So how do we quantify a good man? How do we do it? What does it even mean anymore? In the song that I was listening to, there's an old band called For Him, and that's the number 4 and then H-I-M, right? And I'm not going to go through the whole chorus, but there's a part of it where it says, I found out the measure of a man is not how tall he stands, how wealthy or intelligent you are. And then skip forward a couple of lines and it says, it's what's in the heart defines the measure of a man. You know, David, if we were to judge him on his failures, man, he would be an abysmal failure. Man, he would be a failure. He'd be like the worst guy ever. He'd make all of our leaders look like saints. Because, man, that dude messed up a lot. He did. He really did. But he loved God, man. He was after God's heart. How can somebody who messes up so bad be after God's heart? I wish I knew the answer to all that. I don't. I do know this, that I do seek out God's heart. You know, I remember when Vicki and I were dating, I would go, I love you because, and I would list this beautiful, exhaustive list. I would think that, man, I was deep in the poetry, right? You're beautiful, your eyes are wonderful, you have a vibrant soul, you're honest, you're hardworking, all of those things, and they are all true. And then I would ask her, why do you love me? And I was looking for an exhaustive list, and she would look at me and she would say these words: because you're a good man. You know, back then I was almost jaded that she didn't have a better list. But as I've gotten older, I actually tear up that I didn't see it. She saw in me everything that I worked hard to be, everything that I wanted to be. All of my life's effort. A faithful husband, a loving father, a loyal Christian man. Also a failure in every endeavor. Somehow, in there, was a good man. That's what we all want for our daughters. Certainly what I want for mine. And my daughter's husband, he's a good man. He has a quiet, gentle spirit about him. And my daughter loves him unbelievably. You know, the world has a tough road ahead for those two. It's going to be one of criticism, one of destruction, of you ought to, and you could have, and you should have, and why didn't you? And I pray that when my daughter looks at her husband in 10 years and he goes, "Why do you love me?" that she will look at him and say, "Because you are a good man." My son, I had a big conversation with him while he was here about his responsibilities as a father to his son. I told him the hope that your son has is not in the educational process. It's not in physical prowess. It's not in anything other than you right here. You being the leader of his life. You showing him as an example of what a good and godly man looks like. It is your job. And if there is a failure, it will rest upon your shoulders. Not the shoulders of the school system, not the shoulders of the system, not my shoulders, upon his. It is your job to raise a good and godly man, so that when they're the father of little Coach's wife is looking and going, "Who is this little Robbie, this Coach Bob 5 as I call him? Who is this guy?" Hopefully one day that man's daughter will look up at her father and go, "Dad, Coach Bob 5 is a good man, just like his father and his father's father." As you can tell, I take this stuff quite seriously. My son-in-law is a good man, and his children will look up to him as that, because that's what he is. It's not a show. It's not some shtick that we put on to impress others. It is a calling. It is a requirement. It is what we must be. It is what we were created to be. Are you who you've been called to be? Are you chasing God? Are you trying to honor Him in everything you do in the way you raise your family? There is not a higher calling. Money does not define me. The CanAm Spyder, which I love riding, doesn't define me. Motorcycles and cool jackets, they don't define me. My God has shaped me and defined me and told me what I am, who I am, what I am to be, and how I am to raise my children. And I thank Him daily when my wife looks at me and says, "Bob, you're a good man." I hope that you are either the good man in the lives of those around you, or you are surrounded by good men. I could create the list of slow to wrath, slow to speak, we think, we care, we love. I am very grateful for my son. I'm very grateful for my son-in-law. I am very grateful for my daughters. I'm very grateful for my daughter-in-law. And I'm very grateful for my grandchild. And I'm very grateful for you. Yes, I am. So I want you to know something. You, my friends, are loved. Yes, you are. And so am I. And that is really good news. Now, I want you to do me a favor. Go change the world. We'll see you real soon.